Well, good morning. Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday, the 20th of January. We're about two-thirds through the month. Beautiful morning outside, crisp, clear, beautiful Vale morning. And thank you for joining me. Yesterday was Martin Luther King Day. And so it was a holiday for most people, for many people. And we decided to go to Tubac. Had never been to Tubac before. We've driven by Tubac along I-19, but I hadn't really ever stopped. And so we pulled into the town of Tubac. There were a bunch of shops. Some were open, some weren't. We didn't actually go. I mean, the last thing I need is more junk in my house. So we didn't go shopping. But it's a quaint little town. And we had lunch at one of the few restaurants that was open yesterday. It was a beautiful day. Oh my goodness, perfect temperature. And we stopped at, I don't even know what restaurant it was, but I had a hamburger and some fries, and it's probably one of the best hamburgers I've ever had. It was really, really good. And there was a guy in the patio. We were out on the patio. There's a guy playing some old music from the 60s, 70s, some country, some not. I mean, it was just very, 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 very pleasant. I mean, it was just awesome. And then went down to Tumacacori, which is the first mission. How do I say this? I mean, it's not the first mission that was planted by Father Kino, but of the ones that were planted by Father Kino, it's the first in the United States. It's the first one. Because he started up in Mexico and moved his way up and ended up in Tumacacori, where there's a mission. And so that's the oldest of the ones that are in modern day United States, modern day Arizona. Spain had control until, I think, the Spanish Civil War, which was 1852. And then there was the Gadsden Purchase, and became part of the United States through the Gadsden Purchase, which was, no, that would have been 1850, maybe 17. Anyway, because Gadsden Purchase happened. And the purpose of that was so we could have a southern rail line from, south of the Rockies. And anyway, it was just, it's apparently, it didn't operate very long before something happened and they decided to pull all the artifacts out of the chapel, out of the mission church, and they never went back because I think of the war. Anyway, we walked along the grounds of Tumacacori, and apparently there's an Anza trail that goes from Tumacacori up to Tubac. It's about 4 miles long. And I've not walked that trail, but now I want to walk that trail. I want to go. We were with. It was impossible for us to walk the trail yesterday, but I might go back at some point and walk that trail. It looks like a lot of fun. Anyway, it was just a beautiful day, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And let's see what else. Excuse me. I think that's about it. Yeah, I think that's about it. So shorter week this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but it's a good week. It'll be a great week. As far as birthdays, we don't have any birthdays this morning. We have one tomorrow, so we'll talk about that one tomorrow. Let me close out of that. Let me close out of this. And let's get into our study. We're in the last book of the Torah. This is the book of Deuteronomy. It's from the Latin deutero, meaning two, namas, meaning law. Deuteronomy is the restatement of the law. In Hebrew, this book is called Devarim, which is, Debar is word, and Devarim is words. So these are the words. That's what they call it. And it is the fifth of the book of Moses, the books of Moses. There are 5 books: Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. And this is the last book before the Israelites enter into the promised land, which begins with Joshua. and they conquer the promised land. They go through a bunch of kings, and then they have the prophets that are alongside of the kings. There's a period of time where God is silent, and then Jesus is born in Bethlehem. And that's basically the end of the Old Testament. Yeah. It's this is a significant book because it restates the law. And the location of this book is that the Israelites have wandered 40 years from being freed from slavery in Egypt and wandering through the desert until they get to the east side of the Jordan. And they will, in Joshua, cross over the Jordan River, conquer Jericho, and then all the other places that they conquer to get into the Promised Land. And just a brief aside, what makes a people of God? Is it a land? Is it a set of moral standards, a set of godly standards to live by? Is it a people with genetic traces back to a person like Abraham? Is it all three? Is it none of them? Because at this point, Israel has all three. They have a genetic code traced back to Abraham. They're a people from that. They're tribes, so they're a nation. They're also a people following a law. And they're also about to get their own geography. So all of those things kind of define who they are. But if you look at God, more important than geography and more important than bloodline, although both of them are important, is the law, is a statement of their identity, their written down identity of who God wants them to be and how he wants them to live. And this is called the law, the Torah. And if the people of Israel can live according to the terms of the Torah, life will go well with them. If they do not live according to the terms of the Torah, then it will be very challenging for them. And what we know from history is that after they cross into the Promised Land, they do conquer all the nations in the Promised Land, and they try to live as the people of God, but it isn't very long before the fact that they don't live by God's law, all sorts of strife and dissension come into play, and the northern kingdom is conquered by the Assyrians, the southern kingdom is conquered by the Babylonians, and both of them brought into exile, taken into exile. And there are remnants of this people that are living in the land until Jesus is born in Bethlehem, who fulfills the Old Testament. He is the center point of all of history. All of history points towards Jesus. Everything before Jesus points to him, and everything after Jesus points back to his life. So he is the center point of all history. I did a sermon on Sunday and typed into the AI who are the 5 most important people in history. And the number 1 person was Jesus Christ. So even AI identifies him as being the most significant person of history, which I think is fascinating. The other ones were Muhammad, number 2, Alexander the Great, Caesar, Caesar Augustus, Augustus Caesar, Caesar the Great, and the 5th one was Genghis Khan. So, and everybody has their own list, but the fact that Jesus and these AIs get to know who you are. So since it knows that I'm a pastor, it probably put Jesus Christ to make me happy because I'm happy with an answer. Oh my goodness. All right. So let's get started on the book of Deuteronomy. This will be Deuteronomy chapter 1, beginning at verse 1. These are the words Moses spoke to all Israel in the wilderness east of the Jordan, that is, in the Arabah, opposite Suf, between Paran and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, Dizahab. It takes 11 days to go from Horeb to Kadesh Barnea by the Mount Seir road. So this kind of locates where the Israelites are. They are camped on the east side of the Jordan River. They've already started to divvy up the tribes. Reuben and Gad have their land on the east side of the river as part of Manasseh, one of the sons of Joseph. They'll cross over the promised land, and the rest of their tribes will get their inheritance. But they've probably set up, they have with them the tabernacle, which is a tent, and they've probably set up the tent. And there's a specific way that you set up the tent, and there are articles that go inside the tent. You have the Holy of Holies that have the Ark of the Covenant. Outside of the Holy of Holies, you've got a bread of meeting, or table of bread. You've got the menorah. You've got a basin with the bowls, with water. I mean, it's set to what this thing looks like. And every time they move, they have to tear it down. They move to a new place. They build it back up again. And now they are on the east side of the Jordan. All the 12 tribes of Israel are there, and they are given specific locations as to where they are around the tabernacle. There's a specific designation as to where each tribe is around the tabernacle. There's probably 1 million people. We don't know for sure. And they're all this community on the move, but they're about to move over into the Jordan River, and they'll get their own promised land. And then they won't be, as they each get their own land, it divides the community further, and they won't see each other as brothers and sisters, but they'll start to divide based upon geography, and this will, even though God has called them all to be children of Abraham, sons of Jacob, they will not look out for the interests of everybody else as much as they're a nation on the move. When you're a nation on the move, everybody has to pitch in, and it's easy to move from tribe to tribe and interact with them because they're all centered around the tabernacle. But as they go into the promised land, it'll greatly diminish their strength, their concentration of people in one place, and they won't see themselves as being brothers and sisters under one law. They'll be kind of divided, particularly the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. All right. Verse 3. In the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses proclaimed to the Israelites all, that the Lord had commanded him concerning them. This was after he had defeated Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon, and at Edrei had defeated Og, king of Bashan, who reigned at Ashtaroth. East of the Jordan, in the territory of Moab, Moses began to expound this law, saying, so Moses is still there. He is an old man. He was probably 40 years or 80 years. He's 80 years when they left. I think it was 80 years, and he's 120. But he's still alive. His brothers died. His sisters died. Pretty much everybody else that was with them on the journey, except for Joshua, son of Nun, and one other guy. They've all pretty much passed on. So Moses is the oldest. He is the last remaining remnant of the people that came out of came out of slavery in Egypt. And as an old man, he begins to speak, and they have to listen very carefully. Verse 6. The Lord our God said to us at Horeb, you have stayed long enough at this mountain. Break camp and advance into the hill country of the Amorites. Go to all the neighboring peoples in the Arabah, in the mountains, in the western foothills, and in the Negev, and along the coast, to the land of the Canaanites and to Lebanon, as far as the great river of the Euphrates. See, I have given you this land. Go in and take possession of the land the Lord swore he would give to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and to the descendants after them. So God tells them, this is your promised land. And it goes all the way up to the Euphrates. If you remember the Tigris and the Euphrates, the land, Mesopotamia, the land between the two waters, is the land of Ur. This is where Abraham started his journey. It's where it's called the cradle of civilization. This is where it all began. Somewhere in this area is where the Garden of Eden is. And it was from this land that they were called down into the land of Canaan. And then from Canaan, they went down into Egypt. And then in Egypt, they wandered back to the land of Canaan. But this land is going to extend all the way from Egypt, all the way up to the Tigris and the Euphrates, the Mediterranean Sea, and then on the east side of the Jordan up until the mountain area. So that is basically, that whole area is now the promised land. And God's declared it, and they will be taking over the land. Verse 9. At that time I said to you, you are too heavy a burden for me to carry alone. The Lord your God has increased your numbers so that today there are as numerous as the stars in the sky. Just pause real there. Where does that come from? That's from Abraham. God's promise to Abraham, who was childless with his wife Sarah, or Sarai. Abram and Sarai, God comes to them and said, I'm going to give you an inheritance. You have no children now, but you will have so many kids, they'll be as numerous as the sky. And Abram says, how will this happen? And Sarai says, how will this happen? And God changes Abram to Abraham and Sarai to Sarah, and she becomes pregnant with Isaac. And she has this boy. She has more than one boy. And now this people is so numerous, they're as numerous as the stars in the sky. It is, in a way, if you are Jewish and you trace your lineage back to Abraham and the promise of God to Abraham, this promise has been fulfilled. This is saying that what I told Abraham about the people, it has been fulfilled. We can cross off that promise from Abraham and check it off the box, the list, check it off the checklist. This has happened, and this is great. Thanks, God. God is always faithful to his promises. Any promise that God promises, he is faithful in doing it. And this is one example of that. Verse 11. May the Lord, the God of your ancestors, increase you 1,000 times and bless you as he has promised. But how can I bear your problems and your burdens and your disputes all by myself? Choose some wise, understanding, and respected men from each of your tribes, and I will set them over you. You answered me, what you propose to do is good. All right, hold on. Let me just move this down a little bit. Verse 15. So I took the leading men of your tribes, wise and respected men, and appointed them to have authority over you as commanders of thousands, of hundreds, of fifties, and of tens, and as tribal officials. And I charged your judges at that time. Hear the disputes between your people and judge fairly, whether the case is between two Israelites or between an Israelite and a foreigner residing among you. Do not show partiality in judging. Hear both, small and great alike. Do not be afraid of anyone, for judgment belongs to God. Bring me any case too hard for you, and I will hear it. And at that time, I told you everything you were to do. So, and if you remember that, that did happen, and it was Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, who kind of also spoke to Moses, saying, "You cannot do all this by yourself. So choose some people," and Moses did. And Moses is just restating what he did. And this, so we talked about what makes a people. And you could say it's the law that we're all supposed to follow. it's our lineage, it's our geography. But here's another thing you could add, and that is who we appoint as judges over us, who are our leaders. And they're not even leaders, they're just judges at this point. Because you can't have a people living in close proximity. Because we are sinful people and we have free will, we will trespass on other people, and somebody will be hurt. And so those quarrels go to people who are in charge of different tribes and villages. And then if they can't handle the issue, then it's elevated, and ultimately it's elevated to the Supreme Court, which is Moses. And as we've stated before, all the things that we have in the United States when it comes to the judicial system has its roots here in the Old Testament. And you can kind of see that. All right. And being able to judge. So there's two parts. One is what is the law, and the other is somebody to judge the law. And so you have, in some respects, you have Congress and the judicial system, and then you have an executive system. And it's all kind of in Moses right now. He's got all three of those. But eventually, this system of legality finds its way into the Magna Carta and all the different things until it finally ends up on the shores of the United States, where it is enshrined in the Constitution, which is where we are today. Anything else there? I think that's about it. Verse 19. Then, as the Lord our God commanded us, we set out from Horeb and went toward the hill country of the Amorites, through all that vast and dreadful wilderness that you have seen. And so we reached Kadesh Barnea. And then I said to you, you have reached the hill country of the Amorites, which the Lord your God is giving us. See, the Lord your God has given you the land. Go up and take possession of it, as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, told you. Do not be afraid and do not be discouraged. Then all of you came to me and said, let us send men ahead to spy out the land for us and bring back a report about the route we are to take and the towns we will come to. The idea seemed good to me, so I selected 12 of you, one man from each tribe. They left and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and explored it, taking with them some of the fruit of the land. They brought it down to us and reported, it is a good land that the Lord our God is giving us. And so you'll remember the spies that went out, and they found out that, yes, it is a land flowing with milk and honey. Did the people in the land, are they the ones that planted all the fruit and nurtured all the fruit and watered all the fruit during the droughts and all that? Or was this a land that God had prepared for them, that all this stuff already existed? And I would probably say that it's that the caretakers, the people in the land, are being caretakers of this. So when they go and grab an apple off the tree or a fig off the fig tree or whatever, somebody is looking out for that fig. And those are the people that the Israelites will conquer so that they can have the figs. And they send the spies, and the spies see it, and they say, yes, it is a good land. This is where we should go. All right. So Moses is basically just recounting the history here, and he's going to continue on. But we'll kind of leave it there for now, and we'll pick up the rest of the history when we continue reading. So we'll pick up tomorrow in verse 26. That is Wednesday, 1:26, and we'll pick up the story there. So let's close in prayer. Gracious God, thanks for this beautiful day, and watch over us till we meet again. In Jesus' name, amen. Those of you online, thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day. It should be a great day. I think the high yesterday in Tubac was 83, but it never, my watch said it never got over 79. So, and we were in the shade. So it was just a lovely day. And I think today will be a lovely day too. So go out and enjoy the day, and may God bless you until we meet again. All right, take care. Bye.